In Anthem, you are a freelancer, a renowned hero responsible for safeguarding humanity and exploring the world beyond the walls of Fort Tarsis. At their disposal, freelancers have access to a variety of javelins. I'm Darcblade and this is our overview of the Storm Javelin. Javelins are exosuits that allow freelancers to perform their duties, empowering them with offensive, defensive and explorative capabilities. The Storm Javelin is the ability-focused javelin out of the bunch, very similar to Mages found in other games. It specialises in dealing elemental damage and applying their effects to opponents and spreading them around the battlefield. Though it's not the fastest javelin out there and it isn't the most heavily armoured, it can make up for its lack of survivability through its airborne antics. Able to stay in the air a lot longer than the other javelins, whilst airborne you'll also gain damage resistance thanks to an energy shield being placed around you. But should you be knocked to the ground or your jets overheat, play it cautious as the Storm can be quite fragile whilst grounded. Now, as for the passive abilities of the Storm, the combos created by the Storm are AoE spread combos. This spreads the elemental effects of the primed target to nearby foes when the Storm detonates the combo. When it comes to jumping, it doesn't really have a basic double jump, instead it will just immediately go into the hover mode after jumping twice. When it comes to its evasive dodges, it has access to a blink or short teleport. This can be performed in the air or on the ground. And when it comes to melee attacks, it deals a fiery strike, punching forward with flames and fire damage. This is also classed as a combo detonator. As for the ultimate, the Storm has access to the Elemental Storm. When activated, the Storm will call down a torrent of elemental energy that will decimate the targeted area. With each successive cast, the element of the Elemental Storm will change, from frost to electricity to fire and so on. This ultimate will also prime targets and then detonate them accordingly, spreading the elemental effect to any enemy who is lucky enough to survive. When it comes to the Storm's interchangeable abilities, it has access to blast seals. These include the Lightning Strike, that will deal large amounts of electric lightning damage to the area you target. This is also classed as a combo detonator. You have access to the Ice Storm. This allows you to fire multiple shots of ice damage that will eventually explode, freezing enemies with ice damage. This also primes enemies for combos. You have access to the Flame Burst. This is a quick explosion that deals fire damage at a target's location, dealing fire damage. You have the Ice Blast, which hurls a massive chunk of ice that deals massive damage to foes and freezing enemies in close range. It is also classed as a combo primer. And then finally you have access to Living Flame. This is a fiery projectile that will seek out and ignite targets it touches. This is also classed as a combo primer. The Storm then has access to focus seals. These include the Frost Shards. When casting, the Storm will rapidly fire shards of ice at an enemy that will slowly freeze them in place. This is also a combo primer. They have access to the Burning Orb. This is a versatile fire ability that can be fired quickly in small shots or charged up for a larger projectile that will explode with fire damage. This is classed as a combo detonator. They have access to the Shock Burst, where the Storm will discharge electrical energy that can be bounced off of walls and surfaces to reach targets behind cover. This will also prime targets for combos. You also have access to the Glacial Spear. This is a charge up ability that fires a powerful beam of ice energy at the direction you're aiming. This can also be used as a combo detonator. And then you have access to the Arc Burst. This unleashes a bolt of lightning that will leap to nearby targets for heavy electrical damage. Unfortunately, this is not a detonator or a primer. When it comes to the support seals, basically the support abilities, you have two options. First is the Wind Wall. This creates a translucent wall of air that will block enemy projectiles. This is great for if you've taken up position in smaller areas, but enemies can move through it or walk around it, so be aware of that. They have also access to the Quickening Field. This creates a sphere that reduces cooldowns on all abilities for any ally who enters the sphere. Just be aware that if you cast the Quickening Field while in the air, it will stay in the air. When it comes to the pros and cons of the Storm, its biggest pros include the fact that it has access to some of the best elemental abilities in the game. The only element it's lacking are acid-based elements. It also has access to the largest amount of primers and detonators in the game, great for people who like to play with combos. And finally, it also has some of the best airborne durability in the game, able to hover for long amounts of time. Staying in the air will give you advantage when taking on enemies and add a little bit to your survivability. However, when it comes to the cons of the Storm, unfortunately its survivability is an issue, especially when it is on the ground. On the ground it could be considered a glass cannon, so you have to watch your back. Overall, the Storm has been made for people who like to use abilities or like to perform combos. It is also a fantastic class for players who like to fight while airborne. Whilst being in the air naturally can make you a sitting duck, thanks to there being rarely any cover in the air. The fact that the Storm gets a little bit of a defense buff whilst airborne, and the fact that you don't have to contend with melee opponents, balances things out a little. Of course, the biggest downside is you have to watch yourself when you are on the ground, as the Storm in terms of durability is one of the weaker ones, especially when compared to the Colossus and Ranger. But at the end of the day, all Javelins are useful in their own right, so go with what suits your playstyle and needs. And until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you an overview guide to the Storm Javelin in Anthem. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.